and Christopher Coleman was charged with the first-degree murder of his wife and 2 sons.
You've
missed it.
We will get justice for my daughter and for my grandsons. I have what they call the mother instinct. I'm
The Perfect Family, a portrait of evil behind closed doors. The afternoon sun casts long shadows across the manicured lawns of Columbia, Illinois. In this peaceful suburb just outside St. Louis, children's laughter echoes through tree-lined streets. On one particular lawn, a father plays catch with his son, the baseball arcing through the golden light. The scene captures everything wholesome about American suburban life, a perfect snapshot of normalcy. Rachel Regerix watches from down the street, admiring what she has always considered the ideal family. I always thought of them as the American family, she reflects. The perfect family. 31-year-old Sheri Coleman and her husband Christopher are raising 2 beautiful boys in this quiet community where everyone knows their neighbors' names. 11-year-old Gavin is thoughtful and introspective, always watching the world with intelligent eyes. 9-year-old Garrett radiates energy and charm, a social butterfly like his mother. The boys are the kind of children every parent dreams of raising, polite, helpful, with hearts of gold. Their mother has dedicated her life to them, a former military K-9 handler who left her career to become a full-time mom. Their father, 32-year-old Christopher, comes from a family of faith, the son of a preacher who has built a successful career in security. This is the portrait of a blessed life. A promising family living in a wonderful place to raise children, where serious crime feels like something that happens in distant cities, never here in Columbia's safe embrace. But in less than 18 hours, this perfect picture will shatter into a nightmare that will haunt an entire community forever. May 5th, 2009, the day evil came home. Detective David Barlow's phone rings at 6:50 inches the morning. His neighbor, Christopher Coleman's voice comes through, tight with concern. He's on his way home from the gym, crossing the JB Bridge, and Sheri isn't answering the phone. She should be up by now. There have been threats, serious threats against the family. Could Barlow check on them? Barlow, a detective sergeant for the Columbia Police Department, heads immediately to the Coleman residence just across the street from his own home. He peers through the front door, but sees nothing unusual. Moving around to the basement, he discovers an open window. His training kicks in as he enters the house, moving carefully through the lower level. The smell hits him first, the acrid, chemical odor of spray paint. As he ascends the basement stairs into the kitchen, his eyes take in words scrawled in blood-red paint across the walls. Disturbing messages. Violent threats. The word punished glares from the surface. His heart pounds as he continues up the staircase to the 2nd floor. More messages appear. You have paid. Each step brings him closer to what he somehow knows will be a terrible discovery. At the top of the stairs, 3 bedrooms wait. In the master bedroom to the left, he finds Sheri Coleman. Her face bears the marks of a violent struggle. 2 black eyes speak to her final, desperate fight for life. To the right, in the 1st bedroom, he discovers Gavin. The boy appears peaceful in death, but someone has violated even this final rest by spray painting a message on the sheet covering his body. Paint residue marks his skin. In the 3rd bedroom lies Garrett, the outgoing child who loved life and people. All 3 are dead, all 3 strangled in their sleep. Detective Barlow's professional composure barely contains the horror washing over him. These aren't just victims, these are his neighbors, children he's watched grow up. A mother who waved to him from across the street. It wasn't going to have a good outcome, he later says, his voice still carrying the weight of that morning. This crime scene, it wasn't bloody, but that didn't mean it was less gruesome. When Christopher Coleman arrives moments later, Barlow delivers the devastating news. The husband and father collapses on the driveway, sobbing, curling into the fetal position. He says he feels like he's going to throw up. The small town of Columbia, population barely over 10,000, has just experienced something unthinkable. A monster, the word that immediately comes to mind for investigators, has invaded their sanctuary and destroyed an innocent family. If you don't believe in evil, one investigator reflects, I hope you do now. Building the facade. To understand how this horror came to be, we must travel back through the years that built the Coleman family's seemingly perfect life. Christopher and Sheri meet in the military, both serving in K-9 units where dogs become partners and training forges deep bonds. They share values of service, discipline, and faith. When they marry 12 years before that terrible May morning, they appear ideally matched 2 people from similar backgrounds building a life together. Christopher comes from a deeply religious family. His father, Kenneth, serves as a pastor, creating an atmosphere where faith permeates every aspect of life. Christopher carries this religious foundation into his own family, attending church regularly, raising his sons in Christian values. To outsiders, he appears to be a gentle, quiet man, exactly the kind of father any community would welcome. After leaving the military, the couple settles in Colombia. Sheri embraces motherhood completely, pouring all her energy into raising Gavin and Garrett. The boys thrive under her devoted care, becoming the kind of children who make parents beam with pride. Gavin, the thinker, always processing the world around him. Garrett, his mother's son, charming everyone he meets with his outgoing personality. Christopher leverages his military and security experience into a prestigious position, head of security for Joyce Meyer Ministries. Meyer has become a powerhouse in the evangelical movement, a televangelist whose organization generates between $50 and $100 million annually. She travels the world spreading her Christian message, sometimes to countries hostile to women preaching religion. This makes security crucial, and Christopher's role both important and well compensated. His salary reaches 6 figures, providing his family with a comfortable lifestyle in their nice Columbia home. But behind this carefully maintained image, fault lines are spreading. Sheri's friends notice changes in her demeanor. She confides that her marriage has hit rough patches. Christopher has become distant, critical. They attend marriage counseling, but Sheri tells her friend Susan LaPlante that Christopher puts on a false face during the sessions, then unleashes his anger when they return home. He tells his wife hurtful things, "I never loved you." Still, Sheri fights for her marriage. She believes in her vows, in the family they've built together. She isn't willing to give up on the man she married or the father of her children. What Sheri doesn't fully understand yet is that another woman has entered the picture, someone who will ultimately seal her fate and that of her beloved sons. Unraveling the web, the morning of May 5th transforms Columbia into a crime scene unlike anything this small community has ever experienced. Chief James Edwards immediately recognizes that his 2-person detective unit needs help. He calls in the Major Case Squad, bringing 25 seasoned investigators to bear on the case. Major Robert Connor and his team swing into action with military precision. The crime scene investigators begin processing the house. Warrants are secured for Christopher Coleman's phones and computers. And at the police station, a devastated Christopher Coleman sits down to give his statement. Detective Barlow, despite his personal connection to the family, participates in the interview. Christopher explains that he left for the gym around 5 a.m., his normal routine. He called Sheri multiple times trying to wake her, at 6 a.m., then again at 6:43. When she didn't answer, he grew concerned and called his neighbor for help. But something feels off to the investigators. Christopher's reactions don't match what they would expect from a husband and father who just lost everything. He never asks how his wife and children died. He shows little curiosity about the investigation. His emotions seem muted, controlled. Just the lack of reaction, Barlow recalls. The lack of curiosity of what's going on. The investigation quickly focuses on the threatening letters and emails Christopher had been receiving since November 2008. These communications escalated over months, culminating in a hand-delivered note less than a week before the murders that read, "Stop today or else. I know your schedule. You can't hide from me forever. I'm always watching." The threats appeared linked to Christopher's work with Joyce Meyer, someone angry at the ministry, someone who warned, "If I can't get to Joyce, then I will get to someone close to her." But as investigators dig deeper, disturbing patterns emerge. They track down people across the country who dislike Joyce Meyer, interviewing each one about their whereabouts on May 4th and 5th. None fit the profile. In fact, none of Meyer's other employees or associates have received similar threats. Only Christopher. Barlow had installed a surveillance camera in his own home, pointed directly at the Coleman mailbox, hoping to catch whoever was leaving the threatening notes. The footage shows no strangers approaching. Christopher had installed security cameras in his own house too, but mysteriously, the recording device is missing. The basement window through which the intruder supposedly entered was left unlocked. Strange behavior for a man whose family was allegedly being stalked and threatened. Then comes the phone call from St. Petersburg, Florida that changes everything. Detective Rebecca Hulsman contacts the Major Case Squad with urgent information. She's been interviewing a woman named Tara Lynch, an old high school friend of Sheri's. What Tara tells her contradicts everything Christopher has been saying. When confronted, Christopher admits to the affair, but downplays it. "I didn't think it was an affair, just a friend, somebody to talk to." But Tara's phone and laptop tell a very different story. Videos and photographs document an intense romantic relationship. Christopher has flown Tara to meet him at various locations where he travels for work, Hawaii, multiple cities. They've rented cars together. Tara has a wedding date to Christopher marked on her calendar. They hold joint credit card accounts. She honestly believes he's going to leave his wife and children to marry her. The affair began in fall 2008, 6 months before the murders. Investigators note with interest that Christopher marked November 5th, 2008, as the day Tara changed my life. Just 9 days later, the threatening emails began. Christopher's parents, Kenneth and Barbara, are shocked to learn about the affair but insist their son is incapable of murder. He's always been a real gentle person and kinda quiet, Kenneth says. You couldn't put something around your kid's throat unless you're a monster. It's not there. It's just not there. After 6 hours of interrogation, Christopher walks out of the police station a free man. Investigators lack the evidence to charge him not yet. But piece by piece, they're building their case. The mask falls away. Over the following days and weeks, the investigation peels back layers of deception that Christopher Coleman has carefully constructed. Computer forensic experts make a breakthrough. Those threatening emails sent to Christopher's work account originated from his own laptop. The email address destroychristophercoleman@gmail.com was created on his computer. The threatening letters left in the mailbox contain phrasing and details only someone inside the house would know. Christopher had staged the entire campaign of threats against himself and his family. But why? The answer lies in the converging pressures of his double life. Joyce Meyer Ministries maintains a strict policy against adultery. In a videotaped deposition, Meyer confirms, if he would have been having an adulterous affair while he was still married, then it could have definitely affected his job. Christopher's six-figure salary depends on maintaining his image as a devoted family man and Christian. Meanwhile, Tara is pressing him for commitment. She believes they're planning a future together. She's made it clear the divorce had to happen first. Christopher has told her he's serving Sheri with divorce papers on May 5th, the very day of the murders. Of course, investigators find no evidence he ever filed divorce papers or even consulted an attorney. Sheri herself has discovered the affair. She told her friend Susan LaPlanta about Tara, even showing her pictures of the woman who's having an affair with my husband. But Sheri refuses to file for divorce. She's fighting for her marriage, for her family. Christopher is trapped. If Sheri divorces him, he might lose his lucrative job. If the affair becomes public, he'll definitely lose his position. But Sheri won't let him go, and Tara is demanding he follow through on his promises. And then there's the evidence Sheri Coleman herself provided before her death. Susan LaPlante testifies to the chilling words Sheri spoke when Christopher came home demanding a divorce. She told me that if anything happened to her, Christopher did it. The autopsy reveals that Sheri fought violently for her life, struggling desperately against her attacker. She sustained significant injuries in the fight, leaving her with 2 black eyes. The boys, tragically, show no signs of struggle. They were likely killed in their sleep before they even knew what was happening. Christopher has scratches on his arms that he claims came from removing a satellite dish from the roof the day before. But the timing is suspicious. When Detective Barlow interviews him on the morning of the murders, Christopher asks for a blanket, claiming he's cold. The video footage shows him carefully covering only his arms, hiding the scratches. The handwriting analysis comes back with damning results. The spray-painted messages on the walls match samples Christopher voluntarily provided to police. An expert can identify distinctive characteristics in how he forms certain letters. Investigators discover that Christopher purchased spray paint matching exactly what was used at the crime scene from a local hardware store. The computerized signature reads Christopher Coleman. The timeline of death becomes crucial. The medical examiner determines that based on rigor mortis and other factors, Sheri and the boys died hours before Christopher claims he left for the gym, likely by 3 a.m. at the latest. This means Christopher was in the house when they were killed. More than that, he had time to stage the entire scene with the spray-painted messages before casually heading to the gym and calling his neighbor to discover the bodies. Perhaps most chilling is the surveillance footage from the afternoon before the murders. It shows Christopher playing catch with his son in the front yard, a perfect picture of fatherhood. Less than 12 hours later, that child would be dead by his father's hand. When police examine Christopher's computer more thoroughly, they find he has meticulously documented everything about Tara. Her measurements, her favorite things, places they've been together. He's planning a future with her down to the smallest detail, including the name of their first daughter. 2 weeks after the murders, on May 19th, 2009, police arrest Christopher Coleman and charge him with 3 counts of first-degree murder. The community that once saw him as a devoted father and husband now sees him as a monster who strangled his own family to death. Justice pursued. The trial doesn't begin until April 2011, 2 years after those terrible murders. Prosecutor William Parkinson and his team have spent those years meticulously building their case, assembling what he calls a 10,000-piece puzzle. The pretrial publicity is so intense that the judge buses in a jury from a county 90 minutes away, hoping to find impartial jurors, but even they have heard about the case. The question becomes, can they set aside their preconceptions and evaluate the evidence fairly? Christopher Coleman arrives at court sporting a new hairdo and wearing a bulletproof vest beneath his clothes. His defense team, Thomas O'Gara and Richard Margulis, face what they admit is an uphill battle. The evidence is overwhelming, even if it's all circumstantial. The prosecution's strategy is straightforward. Show that Christopher murdered his family to escape his marriage and keep both his lucrative job and his mistress. This crime was about greed, sex, selfishness, and narcissism, Parkinson tells the jury. Christopher Coleman decided he wanted a new life, and his family was in the way. Sheri's friends take the stand, many testifying through tears. They describe a woman who loved her children completely, whose world revolved around her boys. They reveal the truth about the Coleman marriage, that it was troubled, that Christopher had become cruel and distant, that Sheri was fighting desperately to save it. Susan LaPlante delivers perhaps the most powerful testimony, recounting Sheri's prophetic words, "If anything happened to her, Christopher did it." The moment everyone has been waiting for arrives when Tara Lynch enters the courthouse under police escort. She testifies that she and Christopher talked or texted all the time, constantly, frequently professing their love. When asked about marriage plans, her answer is simple and devastating. The divorce had to happen first. Parkinson makes the bold decision to show the jury the explicit videos and photographs Christopher and Tara sent each other. It's uncomfortable, even painful for Christopher's parents sitting in the courtroom, but it establishes the intensity of the relationship. This wasn't casual. This was obsessive love that drove a man to murder. The defense attempts to challenge the timeline of death, arguing that the victims could have been killed during the hour and 10 minutes. Christopher was at the gym, but the medical evidence is clear. Rigor mortis indicates they died hours earlier. The defense also suggests someone else could have accessed Christopher's computer to send the threatening emails, or that the handwriting analysis isn't definitive. But the accumulation of evidence becomes impossible to dismiss. The spray paint purchase, the staged threats, the affair, the lies, the suspicious behavior, the scratches, the missing security footage, the unlocked window, the lack of unknown DNA at the scene. Christopher chooses not to testify in his own defense, a decision that allows the prosecution's narrative to stand unchallenged. The jury deliberates for 2 agonizing days. Outside the courthouse, crowds gather. Inside the jury room, the initial vote is 7-5 for not guilty, not because jurors think Christopher is innocent, but because some struggle with the circumstantial nature of the case. "We all thought he did it," one juror later explains. "Who else would have done it? But you wanted factual, tangible evidence." What finally convinces the holdouts is their own detective work. Looking at the back of a photograph showing Christopher and Tara kissing, they notice it was taken on October 21st, 2008, weeks before Christopher and Tara both claimed their relationship began. The lie is right there in black and white. If he could lie about this, a juror realizes he's lying about everything. After 15 hours of deliberation, on May 5th, 2011, exactly 2 years after the murders, the jury reaches its verdict. Guilty, guilty, guilty. 3 counts of first-degree murder. The crowd outside the courthouse erupts in applause and cheers. Reporter Daniel Pister, who covered the case for 2 years, observes, "I had never seen anything like what happened on the lawn of the courthouse that night." The judge sentences Christopher Coleman to life in prison without possibility of parole. Illinois has recently repealed the death penalty, sparing him that fate. The weight of evil. In a phone interview from prison, Christopher Coleman maintains his innocence. "I absolutely love my wife and my kids," he insists. "This, it's not me." When asked how he can claim to love his wife while having an affair with her best friend, he responds, "Maybe I wasn't, selfishly getting what I thought I should be getting at home as far as with my wife, from the physical side of things, but I still absolutely loved her." His words ring hollow against the mountain of evidence, the testimony of those who knew the truth, the victims who can never speak for themselves. Sheri's mother, Maria, found the strength to attend every day of the trial, seeking justice for her daughter and grandsons. "We will get justice for my daughter and for my grandsons," she declared with maternal certainty. "I have what they call the mother instinct." Her instinct proved correct, but justice cannot bring back 3 innocent lives. The community of Columbia has tried to heal, creating a memorial in the subdivision where the Coleman family once lived. There's a bench and trees, a place where friends and neighbors can remember Sheri, Gavin, and Garrett. The community raised money for domestic violence victims in their names. There are plans to build a Little League field named after the two boys who love to play ball. But the trauma runs deep. Parents in the community told investigators that their children began asking terrible questions. Could their own father do something like this? How can you trust anyone when a seemingly perfect dad turns out to be a murderer? Ashley Turnbow, a neighbor, reflects on the inadequate funeral service. No friends, no family, no coaches. Nobody spoke about these three awesome people that were dead. The community needed to grieve properly, to honor the victims apart from the monster who killed them. For Detective Barlow, the image of that morning will never fade. The one that sticks out the most probably would be the boy, just because he's the one that I discovered, he says. Still haunted years later, it wasn't going to have a good outcome. Susan LaPlante struggles with forgiveness, even as her faith demands it. As a Christian, I feel like it's imperative that I forgive, because Jesus forgave me, and I want to forgive with my whole heart. But when asked what makes it so hard, her voice breaks. Because they were so innocent. That innocence is what makes this crime so incomprehensible. Two boys who never hurt anyone, who had their whole lives ahead of them. A mother who devoted everything to her children. All destroyed because one man decided his desires mattered more than their lives. The warning signs were there, the emotional abuse, the affairs, the lies. But no one could have imagined the depths of evil Christopher Coleman was capable of reaching. He strangled his own children in their sleep, desecrated their bodies with spray paint, staged an elaborate hoax to cover his crimes, and then played the grieving husband and father. This was a promising family, a great family, an investigator reflects. Somebody with no soul destroyed them. The case serves as a chilling reminder that evil doesn't always announce itself with obvious signs. Sometimes it wears the mask of the perfect neighbor, the devoted father, the faithful Christian. Sometimes the monster lives in the house next door, plays catch with his kids in the afternoon sun, and murders them before dawn. On that terrible May 5th morning, Columbia, Illinois, lost its innocence. The small town where everyone felt safe learned that true evil can strike anywhere, can hide behind any facade, can destroy any life it touches. Sheri, Gavin, and Garrett Coleman deserve so much more than the fate Christopher chose for them. They deserved to live, to grow, to love, to pursue their dreams. Instead, they became victims of a man's selfishness, greed, and narcissism, a man who valued his own pleasures more than their very existence. Their memory lives on in the hearts of those who love them, in the memorial where friends gather, in the lives touched by charitable work done in their names. But mostly, their memory lives as a warning that we must remain vigilant, that we must take threats seriously, that we must believe victims when they tell us who might hurt them. Because Sheri knew. She told her friend exactly what would happen. And when evil came for her and her children in the darkness before dawn, she fought with every ounce of strength she possessed, not for herself, but for her boys. That's the final tragedy. Even a mother's fierce love and desperate struggle couldn't save them from the monster who was supposed to protect them. May 5th will forever remain the day that haunts Columbia, Illinois. The day the perfect family portrait was revealed to be nothing more than a carefully constructed lie, painted over an abyss of evil.